Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. This is our last episode for season 6 with our theme Rebuild, with the big idea of discussing and exploring how we can continue rebuilding and revitalizing the education system at this time of the pandemic. It's 2021, and we are still, a lot of schools are still in the middle of the school year, maybe starting a new term or a new semester. But the big challenge of rebuilding education continues to become a big topic among educators, among school leaders, among members of the school communities, policymakers even around the globe, and government leaders. So for our last episode, I want to spend some time to talk about the role of parents, the role of guardians or home supervisors, and how it has maybe evolved or changed as we have undergone a series of modification or big leap or transition towards home-based learning or remote or distance learning, however we call it. And I am very proud and happy to welcome one of the leaders in terms of education in the Philippines, and as well as having a platform, maintaining a platform, supporting a platform that allows for discussion on education to happen. And our guest for today is no other than Gino Luayon. Gino is the Vice Principal for High School at Everest Academy in Manila. He manages Teacher Education Network and moderates the weekly on Saturday morning EdChat, hashtag EdChatPH over on Twitter. And I've met him online. I don't think we've met physically yet, not
Personally.
yet, but I've been with him in his platform in ten Bayan over at Facebook, and I've known him to be part of my network, other network in terms of edtech, in terms of 21st century education. So welcome, Gino, to empowerED podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Also, Jim, I remember fondly our Kids Can innovation.
Yeah.
That
So
one really the yeah, that one.
I think that was the beginning of our
Welcome,
connection.
everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Kids
Yes, we
can
got to work together. Yes.
Kids can is a little bit on hold right now because we're trying to think how that could be a home-based program. It's very challenging because things have been changing right now, but we hope that
Uh-huh.
people would wait for something new about Kids Can in the coming summer. Well, summer in the
I'm looking
Philippines.
forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Gino. So, Gino, how are you right now as a school leader and a father? How have things changed because of the pandemic?
Um, it was an adjustment, no? I think for all of us. When the lockdown started in our school, we were about to start our fourth quarter. So we had to continue our school, okay, even though in the pandemic we had to shift gears and it was an abrupt change for us. We didn't have the luxury of the summer break because most schools, when the pandemic, when the lockdown started, it was sometime in March, right? And so the schools had the luxury of ending their school year earlier and then having a summer to prepare. Okay, we had to immerse ourselves right into it. Only had a week of preparation, and definitely our fourth quarter was an adjustment period, and it was difficult. We learned through many mistakes. Now we are more confident. Now that we just finished our second quarter at the Everest Academy Manila, and we're about to start our third quarter next week. And we are more or less confident. A little tiring and challenging because we are full online, uh, and uh, and even our teachers are doing the online work. And it's exciting, but at the same time can be daunting, can be
Yeah,
challenging.
I think that's part of it. One of the insights actually that came out even with the discussion, global discussion about distance learning, is that no, we're aiming for a perfect system right now, despite despite the fact that we are in a very very imperfect, volatile, uncertain environment, and we really need to learn from our mistakes, and it's okay, because as long as it informs the next decision that we have to make for the school community. So
I agree.
that's a wonderful insight coming from you, Gino. Going to our topic right now, Gino.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just a brief description, or maybe something that you would like to talk about. As a parent, you're a school leader, at the same
Mm-hmm.
time a parent.
Mm-hmm.
How has the role of parents changed at this time of the pandemic?
Okay. It was quite interesting because we were planning for the distance learning of our own children, and at the same time, I was trying to manage the school. Okay. So I was thinking, should the parents now become the teachers of the children at home? At first, I was thinking of it that way, that the role will switch drastically, and parents equals teachers. Actually, if you do decide to do homeschooling, that's what's going to happen. Parents equals teachers. The parent now becomes the teacher. But if your child is still enrolled in a school, your child still is learning from a school and from his or her teachers. And so the role, I think, has not changed that much for parents and teachers if you are still following the online distance learning. Okay. What has changed now is, of course, the part that the parents have to take, no, because the primary consideration here is the parents are the ones who really decide on where to enroll their kids. That's their role, right? They decide, they choose, for instance, this really good school. So as a primary educator of the children, parents also take care of the values and the virtues and the life skills. We cannot actually say these life skills of changing a light bulb, cooking, knowing how to turn on an oven, or cook or bake. These can, while the school can help, these are life skills that the parents still take care of. So what has changed? Actually, the part that parents play. No, parents now have to really take an active part. We cannot just say, "Oh, I enrolled you in this school, and this school is a repository," because the irony of it is the home becomes the school. And so now parents, they have to implement the schedule, right? They have to implement a schedule. They have to remind their children, oops, you have several tabs on your device. If it's online, okay, if it's modular, you must have a schedule for you to answer your module, your printed module, or to use the breaks in between. The primary role of education, while it's on the parents, the secondary role of academics, and of course, these literacy and numeracy, still is the role of the teachers, I think, if you're enrolled in a school.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing that you pointed out, because in the earlier part, there were a lot of discussion about, like, will parents do the teaching, and it was a good clarification, because if you wanna do homeschool learning, like even the usual one, even before the pandemic, then you will have to
Yeah.
teach. But like what you've said, if you've enrolled in a school and there's a very good distance learning program, whether it's modular, blended, or online, whatever
Mm-hmm.
modality it is, it's still the teacher who will have to prepare the materials, facilitate learning. But then in the end, we need to elevate. We need to level up the role of
Level
parents,
up.
like what you've said.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Not just parents, guardians, or
Yes.
any adult supervisor at home,
At home. Right.
because it's very important to make sure, like what you've said, a sense of normalcy through following the schedule, through balancing, giving them much independence versus
Uh-huh.
allowing a little bit of parent intervention, involvement,
Yes.
because in the end
Right.
you need to check with them if they're really following it or not. I mean,
Right.
you don't get to learn self-discipline and self-mastery overnight. even
Yes.
adults even
Yes.
adults have a problem demonstrating self-discipline in real life. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for mentioning that.
You're welcome.
Really, role of parents still very the same, because their role is still to support the learning. It's just that we need to level it up. So while you said that, Gino, the next question is, what are the common challenges that
Okay,
you've seen? Like, parents of an early learner,
right,
parents of a senior high school, how are they
right,
different? How are they the same?
right. The challenge is first primarily physical. Okay, imagine now that there are many parents who are working from home. So the home is transformed into the work environment and also in the school. And for you to have that space, some are challenged by physical space, right? I can just imagine, and I feel for those who live in small homes, no, wherein the parents have to stay at home and the child also has to stay at home. And where do you situate yourself? There must be an ideal place, no, for a student to learn. It's a challenge also cognitively to a child if the classroom, quote unquote classroom, where the child studies is beside her bed. So if your classroom is beside your bed, that sends signals to you. There's your bed. It's so nice to sleep. I see some doing studying because of the lack of space on the bed. They're
Yeah.
actually studying on and it's a challenge. Now, another challenge connected to physical is when parents, for instance, take on a call or in a meeting, and the student or the child is also reciting. So you could get to hear each other. I have experienced this, Jim, because I work from home and my kids are studying. I have been told by my children that, Daddy, can you tone down because your meeting is being you're being mimicked by my classmates, how you speak and the points that you raise. Even if we are just a room away, they can still hear. So physical is the first challenge. Another challenge is, of course, connected to physical, Jim, is connectivity, especially if you're doing online distance learning. Um, I looked at the rankings. I'm sure you know this, being a tech guy. I looked at the rankings of internet speed in the Philippines and the world, and we are 111, 112. Okay, 112. Okay. There is a website where you can check the internet speed, right? There are websites you can check internet speed. Sometimes our internet speeds are just uh, in kbps, no?
Yes, yes, yes.
Whereas our other countries are talking about 100 MB speeds. And for us, so connectivity is a challenge. It's improving, but I feel it's taking a while. Another one is, of course, another challenge is the implementation of the curriculum. And this is my challenge. We had to, I think I'll already give advice, because I thought about this now. Pardon me, Jim. Um, we had to take an active part in communicating to the teachers of my kids because we found out when we saw the report card, oh my, some grades are really good. Okay, astronomical. Wow, really good. But there are some that are really questionable. And we had to intervene and meet with the teachers, write to the teachers. That's how active I had to do. The involvement of the parents is a challenge if the schedule is does not permit. Another one is the implementation of the curriculum. The parents must really have to know. We are fortunate
Yeah.
because we are educators, right? But I can just imagine those who are not who have no experience in education who just entrust. Okay, and the child goes to you and asks, "Is what I'm doing right?" Because you're there, you're the adult that you have to ask. The knowledge of the curriculum can also be a challenge. So I think schools really have to educate the parents and really tell them, oh, this is how we do assessments. This is how we do projects or reports. Okay, we even have to know the little things like how do you, let's say, no, mommy, my Zoom doesn't work.
Yeah.
Mommy, my Google Meet doesn't work. Okay, a parent must or the guardian must know these things. They must
Yeah.
know and not say, yeah, just I rely on the my child to know this. But I've tried to connect to the internet, it just doesn't work. So we have to. It's a challenge, really. The learning curve also we have to expedite and parents, sorry, but we're adding a little bit more expectations on us parents, a little and guardians. But in the end, if we do these things and really support our children, they'll be successful in distance learning. Kasi Jim, I think distance learning, do you see, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you a question. I want to consult you now. when the next school year starts, what do you think would be the modality?
Well, it's really we are in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world right now. Um, I've been writing something right now. I'm doing a project right now, and
Uh-huh.
upon reflection, I think more well depends. So a lot of schools would still be on distance education, online or different modality.
Uh-huh.
But if there's a glimmer of hope and things would really turn out well, my ultimate advice really is for schools to be more comfortable with a blended learning approach. It's not just to master technology or online learning. It's really more of the mindset that the whole school community, school leaders, parents, teachers, students are confident enough to transition to online learning or to face-to-face learning or blend them together, especially if there are disruptions. So I think we've learned from the pandemic that hey, we have no choice whether how long the disruptions will be. Sometimes or most of the time or right now, we are at the mercy of the National Task Force for COVID. If they say no school, no school, right?
Right.
And whether you're an international school, level 3 paas school, or whatever kind of school, you need to follow. But we need to make sure that education continues. So in the end, whether it's a bagyo, it's a typhoon that will
Uh-huh.
disrupt, or maybe it's the Southeast Asian game again that will take over the whole of Metro Manila. We need to be more confident to tell our teachers or to tell our school community that hey, for next week, let's do online distance learning, right? So for me, the way to go is blended learning so that we could have a culture that speaks about our confidence in transitioning from different modalities. So I think that
Right.
should be the way to go. I don't know, that's out of the topic right
Yeah, but
now.
parents, I think, have to know that, no?
Yeah.
Parents, I'm sure, are asking themselves that. Maybe as a parent, this is what we're considering. What if can we have the option of an arrangement with the school that it's a homeschooling program because we're not really yet
Mhm.
there are no vaccines for children.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so can we be given that option? Or you're right, with the disruptions, we can we have a modality wherein we blend it
Yeah.
or hybrid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm not a parent, but I've seen my sisters, I've seen my friends, and some of the parents that I know are frontliners, and they're very
See, look at
thankful.
that.
They're very thankful to schools that have given provision. When we were designing our own online learning program, for our early grades, we have a schedule in the afternoon and in the evening because we have parents who are working outside their homes as frontliners. So when the young kids have to learn, they don't have anyone confident enough to really guide them. We have teachers who said yes to handle classes, and there are a lot. I don't know if we have 3 or 4 sections in the afternoon or evening classes. And shout out to teachers who said yes. And I know some other schools are also doing that. It takes much, it will eat a little bit part of the resources, allocation, and
Right.
all these kinds of things. But that's really good because we're talking about parent involvement right now. When we want to involve parents, then we need to understand the context of families and parents also. So, like what you've said a while ago, um, when I was talking, consulting with other schools, I emphasized to them the importance of making sure that parents are ready to become distance learning, how do you call that, guide, coaches, or whatever. I don't know, depending on the packaging or program of the school. Don't expect them to know Zoom or Google Meet all the time. So I mean, we need like for example, I did plan a parent. We call it a parent and child tech training program. So they need to sit
That's
together,
so cool.
learn together,
That's
and
so
and
cool.
we and we had to cater. to a lot of parents to different devices, but it paid off. I think that was a very good preparation time,
Mhm.
or aspect of the preparation time that we have. But then,
Mhm.
of course, we belong to different schools, different needs, different contexts. So those are just some, well, personally, my tips. So there, we're on the last part, Gino. You've
Okay.
mentioned some tips a while ago,
Yeah.
but if you were to highlight a very important one or two important tips for parents out there,
Right.
so that they can ace or maybe not just survive distance learning right now, what would be those tips that you have?
Okay. One thing that I can speak from my experience, we are waiting for the second term grades. I'm praying that they have improved. Okay, they have their exams this week. But one thing it helped us is we started knowing by heart the schedule. Okay, to the point that we know when their breaks are, so that when we tell our children it's time for break, we know your schedule. Please get up, have a biology break, please. Can you get up from your seat, and please rest your eyes. They cannot say, I'm still doing something. No, in your schedule, it's recess or it's asynchronous period. You don't have to be focused on the screen so much, and they cannot argue because we tell them you need to rest. You need to rest your eyes. We don't want you to be stressed. So know the schedule of your child to the point that you have to know when their assessments are, when their exam schedules are. Okay, because you can no longer say, I leave it to the school. Imagine this conversation, Jim. Oh, what happened to school today? You cannot ask that anymore because the whole you have to know really, and the child cannot just say, okay, school was fine, really, but you have to listen and feel. No? And one time, I'll share this with you. My daughter was crying in class. Okay, so I knew that there was something wrong, and I was working. I was in a meeting. I called my wife and said, "Our daughter is crying. Let's support her and ask her what's wrong." Okay, so you really have to be more involved. Get to know the schedule. Last one, Jim, is of course respect free days and gadget off days. You must have that. Um, Sundays, as much as possible, in our household, we say no computer days. Even if they say I have something to turn in the next day, we tell them you finish that on a Saturday because you have plenty of time. We try to free them off gadget off days, like a mental break days for their mental health, and of course for a chance for us to go out, even we just drive somewhere, just to get our mind off it. We need those breaks. Breaks matter a lot, no, and they help even us as adults and caretakers of our own children. So those two, know their schedule, have conversations, and respect the breaks.
Do you know,
Follow a schedule.
I love that you emphasize um, the idea that they're not gonna really teach, but they need to make sure that they have a conducive learning atmosphere at home for their kids. I think that's the primary
Right.
and very essential role of parents right
Mhm.
now.
Right.
A sense of normalcy in terms of following the schedule,
Uh-huh.
in terms of giving breaks. I love that you mentioned about biology or mental well-being break. I call
Mhm.
them usually SEL break. Have an SEL break with your kid. It's
Social
very,
emotional learning. Yes.
yeah, it's
Yes.
very helpful that you emphasize it, and I love that you emphasize it because even parents right now are much focused on the academic part, that they tend to forget social emotional learning, physical, and the well-being state of their kids. And I think that
Mhm.
is something that we need to talk about more as we progress. I'm not quite sure how schools are planning their program for next year, but a survey of the landscape right now in the Philippines pretty much says we're gonna expect school closures for now. Even I think for, especially with the vaccine, talks about vaccine and everything. So the role of parents will still be
Right.
very very essential. It's more essential
Mhm.
than ever because of the things that have happened. So There. Thank you so much.
More
I hope
active
that
role now.
yeah, I hope that our educators or parents or even our school leaders and teachers right now, maybe you can share some tips that you've heard from Gino from our discussion to the parents that you have right now when you have PTC or teacher conferences out there. So please do share. Thank you, Gino.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jim. Always an
for
honor to work with you, Jim, and learn from you as well.
it's an honor also to have you in this platform and for this collaboration. And we thank our listeners, empowerED community members, those who have been supporting empowerED. We've finished. This is the last episode of season 6, and it should have been finished in December.
Yay!
But because of the pandemic, production have halted or have changed plans or whatever. But thank you so much for the support, and thank you for allowing us to deliver 10 episodes of discussions about how we can rebuild education at
Wow.
this time of the pandemic. So that's season 6. Thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you in our next season 7, in our first episode. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gino, and stay safe and God bless.
Thank you, Jim. Take care, everyone.